Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the second last plenary session where we discuss the monetary issues of UBI at the FRIBIS annual conference of 2021. I'm very excited to present the net fee team. Except one member is not here, Julio Linares, because he is busy implementing a UBI pilot in Berlin and Brandenburg with CirclesUBI. But I am very happy to have with me here Teodoro, Criscioni, Aleeza, Howitt, and Gustav Friis. And maybe in this order, please introduce yourself.
Okay, so just the introduction. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Teodoro. I'm a PhD student in Network and Data Science at Central European University. So we present just each other, or I should start?
Yeah, just a sentence about yourself. That was perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
Aleeza?
Hi, my name is Aleeza, and I am I wear many hats, but I'm a contributor to the Trust Lines Network, and that's what I'll talk about today.
My name is Gustav, as you can read on my name tag. I'm from Denmark, and I'm very focused on crypto, blockchain, and relevant for this small streaming here related to UBI and community currencies.
Yeah, thank you very much. And this team has a very broad spectrum of activities. First of all, I actually contribute my PhD position to this team because this team was formed out of the Community Currency Alliance, a worldwide network of activists in the community currency space that wanted to focus more on UBI and more on research. So yeah, this feels like home to me a little bit to be here with my team. And also with Julio Linares, we have a very strong proponent of the UBI, and we started the Viral network where we collect different research institutes like the Gyeonggi Research Institute, the Jain Family Institute, and we just partnered up with UBI Europe. So we start a very global network of activists and research institutes. And obviously, we also like to have scientific discussions. And this is why I would like to give the word to Teodoro to present his research results. Afterwards, we will have a presentation of Aleeza Howitt about the Trust Lines Network, feasibility study in Venezuela, and afterwards we will have Gustav Friis talking about the Community Currency Alliance and a little bit about the NEAR protocol. So happy and proud and honored to have you guys here, and Teodoro.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I wanted to say a few words about the purpose of the group and what we are working on and what is the idea behind this research team. So our idea is to study how can we use complementary and community currency for universal and conditional basic income projects as a distribution mechanism. Our first purpose is to develop a methodology to study complementary and community currency system and how can we analyze the performance of such currency community and complementary currency systems. And we are trying to merge quantitative methods and qualitative methods. In particular, my expertise is on the quantitative side with network analysis, and I'm mainly focused on flow motive detection because as I will explain in a few slides, I think flow motive detection can help to address and to understand better the macro stabilizing effect and the local multiplier effect, which are induced by the adoption of a complementary currency system, a community currency system. And the expertise coming from Julio Linares, that today is not here, is from the anthropological side, and particularly is specialized in financial diaries, which is another method that is very useful to understand the flow of resources and the flow of currency in a community. So like our idea is to use these quantitative and qualitative methods, and in order to try to understand what is the impact of a currency system. In particular, of course, we are analyzing those currency system, community currency system or complementary currency system that are adopting a universal basic income as a distribution mechanism. Okay. So last July, we had an online event which we presented the first result of Circles network analysis. For today, I'm not going too much in detail. I will just explain the broad idea of what I've done, the type of quantitative analysis I've done so far, analyzing the Circles UBI. We presented these first results also in the International Conference on Computational Social Science, and we presented a poster there. This work is still ongoing. In particular, we are trying to develop better these quantitative methods, and also we are kind of trying to design now also the financial diaries. Anyway, what is CirclesUBI? CirclesUBI is a network, worldwide exchange platform that is based on personal cryptocurrencies. So the idea here is that instead of using official currency, local communities can use this Circles platform to build, to launch, and to have their own pilot project of UBI. And the concept is very simple. Whenever a new user wants to register in the network, the new user needs to be endorsed by other free people. These are the existing members. These existing members can open trust connection with the new user, and when the new user will get this trust connection, he can start exchanging circles with the new users. So CirclesUBI is also called a universal basic income currency system. And the idea is that everyone in the world can have access to this universal basic income, as long as there are trust relationships. There are people who can endorse your participation in the network. And there are 8 circles every 24 hours. And by design, this personal currency supply rate will increase 8% per year. For more information, you can look at the website and the white paper. But here I will just spend few words on which kind of analysis we can do. So as I said, we have 2 layers of networks. There is the web of trust, so there are people trusting to each other. And we can also observe the transaction network, the economic network, so people exchanging circles to each other. In the first analysis we did, here you can see in the image the transaction network. The transaction network, there are almost 5,000 active users, which exchanged, which did 16,000 transactions between the 16th of October 2020 and then 21st of of April 2021. So we just analyzed it. I just analyzed at the moment the first 6 months, and in particular, I'm interested in the strongly connected component. I will explain in a couple of slides what I mean with this. And the strongly connected component here in the transaction network is this big cloud in the center. Yeah. So another important thing for if there are people, network analysts listening my presentation, is that the very cool thing about analyzing this data, this transaction data, is that the type of network is temporal, weighted, and directed. So this is, I think, the best combination we can have, because we can do a lot of different kind of analysis from a temporal side. We can analyze the flow in from a different kind of perspectives. So we can do directed motive detection, temporal motive detection, and so on. So it's really interesting kind of data. And the second layer is the web of trust, of course, the web of trust is way more dense than the transaction network, and of course, like in this case, we can it's a directed network, even though there are timestamp, but maybe it's not so interesting for a network analytical point of view. But it's very interesting network, also this one, and also to see how the web of trust grows. So we could observe triadic closures and other phenomena that are very well known by network analysts. And here in the image, we are observing the web of trust, which is related to the strongly connected component of the transaction network. So this big network is just related with the small cloud here. So you see the difference is huge. Like the density in the network is growing very quick. Is way bigger, and in particular we are observing here, almost only 3% of the total number of edges which are connected with the strongly connected component. So the total number of edges is 1,212,000. So it's very huge. So what is the main point of my research? The main point of my research is about analyzing cyclic structures, and I will explain now what I mean with this. So first of all, there are already some few researches about how the topology of an economic network can affect the price, the income, and the liquidity distribution. There are very few researches about this, but I think it's very interesting, and it's worth to discuss and to analyze more and to work more on this. So, for example, we know that if the number of node disjoint paths, competitive node disjoint paths, as a price effect, and the degree of between centrality are related also with an increase in individual income. So what it means that basically the more people are brokering among different parts of the network, or between two different users. So the more brokers there are, the higher is the probability that these brokers will affect the price, will put a markup in their prices, and there will be an increase in the cost of the economic network overall. So this also has some implication in the liquidity distribution. In fact, we can observe deadlock or gridlock whenever it's not possible for people to pay to settle the payments in the economic network. But I will just explain very quickly what this means in very simple words. So if we look at this image, so we can observe a strongly connected component here in this cloud with blue wires, and the definition of a strongly connected component is that every user can reach every other user, and this has some other this implies two things. First of all, that if you observe carefully, every user is at the same time taking and giving, and so like everyone is at the same time taking and giving, and there are two people, Alice and Bob, the two red users, which are, one is only giving and the other is only taking. So what it means, it means that in the long run, in this payment system, we will observe that Bob will run out of liquidity and Alice will keep accumulating all the liquidity that is in the system. And this has huge implication in the liquidity distribution that is worth to analyze. And another thing is that people in this strongly connected component in the blue cloud all of them are involved in cyclic structures, and because all of them are giving and receiving. So so why is it important to analyze them? So as I said, the best solution is to have a cloud like this, so we don't observe there is no Alice and there is no Bob, but everyone is involved in cyclic structures. So this is the optimal solution for in order to have a circular liquidity distribution. And so in this case, basically everyone has similar degree between centralities, and everyone has the similar incentive to raise a markup. Then of course, this theoretically speaking, this is not necessarily implies like a stability in the price setting, but from some empirical findings, we know that the creation of cyclic structures increase the involvement in the cyclic structures increase the performance of all the nodes involved, and also the performance of the entire graphs. And also we know that cycles per se are balanced payment subsystems. So payment systems in which obligation can be discharged simultaneously. And this is very important, even though we have only 2 studies at the moment about this, 2 empirical studies. So the first one is from this paper, cyclic motives in Sardex monetary network, and which, as I said, like they suggest the importance of cyclic motives for individual and systemic performance. And the second paper is about liquidity saving through obligation clearing and mutual credit system. And the authors here analyze the concept of net internal debt of the system. So the idea that all those, we in order to analyze the performance of the system, we should analyze the performance of those ones which are not involved in cyclic structures. Like my contribution and the contribution that people in my research team we are trying to achieve is to go deeper in this kind of analysis and analyzing not only the directionality, but also like the time, the temporal aspect of these cyclic motives, and also the nestedness, the embeddedness, in order to have such kind of information, performance information, almost in real time, and also to study the statistical significance of such cyclic motifs, because it's not only necessary to detect these cyclic motifs, but we also need to understand what is the significance of these cyclic motifs over time, and study the flow over time, how this flow of motifs affect the whole system. And also analyzing the cyclic flow motifs, we can analyze also the contribution of these motifs, cyclic structures, to the local multiplier. So we can do a lot of very interesting analysis. Here I didn't report the results, but I'm happy to answer questions, and I put the link of our last conference in July 29. So if you're interested, you can go and watch our last presentation. Yeah, I think I can stop here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Teodoro. And as he said, if you're interested in more details, first of all, please ask questions in the YouTube chat on the right side here. And otherwise, watch the recording of our last session. It was a 1-hour session or 90-minute session only for this topic. Yes, thank you very much. I don't see any questions right now posted from the YouTube chat. It's not 100% live. I think there's a 15 seconds lag, so please be free to share your questions. And otherwise, do we have some questions to Teodoro? I don't think so, because we're discussing this a lot. So I would kindly give the word to Aleeza, and thank you again, Teodoro. And Aleeza, thanks for being here.
Great, thanks guys. I will share my screen.
Works
Can you see
perfectly.
the full screen?
Full screen, nice.
Great. Success, okay. So I'm going to be talking about a project called Trust Lines, which I've been working on. And our team and our work in Venezuela so far. Okay, so Trust Lines protocol is essentially open source technology for credit networks or for mutual credit. It is blockchain based. In this diagram, you see that each user is connected by credit or by credit lines in a graph. So this is very similar to how CirclesUBI works, to what Teo was talking about earlier. And yeah, so what Trust Lines does, the technology automatically routes multi-hop or rippled credit payments through the credit lines of the network. And that's the magic of the system. It means that you can send credit to anyone with a mutual friend or friends of friends, as long as there's a path of connected trust lines or connected credit lines. This is a single trust line. That's just the logic of the specific system we're working on. It's made up of two credit lines that are issued bilaterally between two people or entities that trust each other. And you can use this relationship to send IOUs to each other. All right, so what does this have to do with UBI? People ask me this a lot. In one, I just was brainstorming last night. So there are a few points that I want to make. First of all, with both UBI and mutual credit system, money enters the economy bottom up. And like with basic income, it's through consumers, and mutual credit, it approximates the same effect. depending on how it's implemented. Second of all, you can use a credit network. You can use this type of technology to distribute cash transfers. You could also use it to implement a community basic income. And both of these can be done without bank accounts or identity documents, because at the end of the day, it's based on individual users connecting to each other via trusted credit lines. So it's very, very decentralized. So why are we looking to Venezuela? Well, there's extreme hyperinflation of their national currency there. Most people use US dollars, or they depend on US dollars as a unit of account and a medium of exchange. Except most people don't have a bank account or digital banking that lets them use US dollars. So you can only actually send digital payments if you have access to a foreign bank account. As a result, most people, if you don't have access to that, you rely on cash. But the problem is that there are no small bills, or there are very few small bills, like dollar bills, below $20, for example, which means people cannot always use US dollars in cash when they buy and sell things. Sometimes people can't buy goods and merchants lose business simply because they can't make change. And the very, very interesting phenomenon that's happened is that people are issuing their own IOUs or their own credit. So the team in Venezuela, much of what I'm going to talk about has been done, actually conducted by people in Venezuela. I am not in Venezuela. I am in New York. So thanks to Dana, Tomas, Mercedes, and Rosa for doing the hard part. We're working on a paper called Financial Inclusion Through Solidarity, looking at the potential for blockchain-based mutual credit in Venezuela. And I'm just going to share some really quick stats from what they've done. They ran a survey. Survey asked a few questions related to this topic. One is, have you ever tried to buy something and a shop couldn't give you change? Huge majority of people have had this problem. And what's interesting about this question is that these were optional surveys, and a lot of people, over 6,000 people, chose, to answer this question, which was higher than what the other questions got, the response rate from the other questions. So this is like a very a triggering issue for people. This is a big problem. Roughly the same percent of people or of merchants have lost a sale because they couldn't give exact change back to the customer. Okay, and so the next question is, do you know what a vale or a pagre is? And these are two different terms in Spanish that are used to mean respectively voucher and IOU. Vale is a much more common term, pagre is not, but it's more of the official term. And this question kind of comes from trying to figure out what kind of language, terminology do people recognize, so that we can actually talk about credit and we can have conversations about what is money and what is credit and how do we handle these things. Because ultimately terminology has been one of the biggest issues in organizing around mutual credit systems and alternative currency systems. And so so I will spit it out. So 63% of people do recognize those one or both of those terms. And more than half of people have indicated that they've received one of those from a store that couldn't give them change when they tried to make a purchase. So not only do they recognize these terms, but they have used them. They've used IOUs. And here is a screenshot from an interview that the Trustlines Venezuela team conducted with one of the merchants. What they're holding up are not real dollar bills; those are fake dollar bills. They're IOUs, and someone else is printing them out, and the shops take them and they fill them out. There's a line where they can sign their name and the store name. And these are what this merchant uses with her customers in order to continue doing business with them when she can't make exact change. So here's some more just photographs of different IOUs that the team has collected. So you can see what they look like, and they're just handmade, sometimes very informal. All it is a signature and a date and the value of the IOU denominated in US dollars and the name of the store where you can redeem it at. So people are using IOUs. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. What I'm showing you now is Amundi, the homepage for Amundi Network, which is a merchant network in Venezuela, and they're the ones that they've been very helpful. The team has been working with some of the merchants from the Amundi network to test out trust lines and to conduct interviews with them about the feasibility, their thoughts on the economy, their thoughts about credit, to investigate how they use credit with their customers. And yes, they've been very helpful, and the plan is to see if we can implement some sort of mutual credit system through Amundi. And that's all I'm going to talk about today. But if you are interested in learning more, you can reach out to me, or if you want to learn just about the Trust Lines Network, you can check it out there. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aleeza. That was super insightful for me too. That was new information, and I find it really interesting then the bottom-up approach of using money in lack of money is a peer-to-peer kind of mutual credit system, right? So the software of Trust Lines is just bringing this to a digital platform, a decentralized platform, obviously, and yeah, maybe like how is your experience in like onboarding these people? Is it actually helpful? I can imagine that fractional payments under $1 are way easier on a digital platform. Like, how's this going?
Yeah, well, they did conduct a community trial, a small pilot, and the major difficulty is getting people to set up the credit lines in the first place. So if you believe in the central vision of the Trust Lines Network, which is so Trust Lines, the technology is a very agnostic credit platform. You can use it for a lot of different credit configurations or different types of economies. The very basic thing that it can do is it allows individuals to connect to each other, just person to person. And this is not a new idea. This is an old idea. This is also similar to what Circles, like how Circles works. They're based on the same idea. Ripple Pay, or the original Ripple, which was created back in 2004. Pre-Bitcoin, and that in turn was based on Let's systems. But the challenge is getting people. So people already use credit in their daily lives. We are willing to give IOUs to each other, and we can see in Venezuela, it's literally happening. People are literally issuing their own IOUs, so their own credit. The hard part is formalizing this. Is getting people to issue a credit line, a formal credit line in digital form, and to fully grok what that means and the implications of it and what other social procedures they might need around that. So yeah, people have not had trouble with actually using credit once they get the hang of that, but that's the hard part. That's what they found that to be the hardest part.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, thank you very much for pointing out that Ribbles existed 5 years prior Bitcoin. Another proof that the community currency space was there decades or even centuries before the invention of blockchain, even though most people are not aware of it. Yeah, and also, I would love to point out that we have like different dimensions of like community currencies being presented here at this conference. And if we just focus on the tools, we had sorry, what is the central based name again that Andreo uses? I forgot it. Cyclos. We have Cyclos on a central database for mutual credit systems. Then we have Circles with the net of trust. Okay, it's actually not a mutual credit system, but then we also have trust lines, also with this net of trust, but with this mutual credit system behind. If I simplify it very very roughly, so. The community currency space is very broad in diversity. And to bring together the space, there was this idea of forming the Community Currency Alliance, and Gustav was one of the founding members. And so maybe you could tell us some words about the idea behind the Community Currency Alliance and your motivation to create this group that did an awesome job of in connecting the global network of community currencies, or people that are interested in it.
Thank you very much for the compliment, Valentin. And I would love to. And also thanks to you for stepping in with Freiburg and making these bridges. And for Freiburg, of course, to also be involved with guys like us in a mutual beneficial relationship. That's great. That academia and currency nerds in different shapes can meet. So that's wonderful. And that's sort of also what was some of the starting point of the Community Currency Alliance. So I had also been a bit involved in the space of local currencies and in the cryptocurrency blockchain space since, like work-wise, professionally, since 2016. And what I noticed was not a lot of projects, institutions, scholars, and other stakeholders, such as municipalities, I'm trying to say, and NGOs, were not really communicating together. And that was basically the goal of the Community Currency Alliance, was just to be a neutral space and be agnostic on currency-specific designs and be agnostic on specific technologies. And what that meant in practice is basically that we kickstarted this with a series of podcasts where we just invited a few guests. This is the website, currency.community. Great domain, very proud of it. The website, very minimal. The podcast, you can still see it. It's on YouTube. We did this together with what's called the Common Stack, which in our field, in the blockchain space, is a project which is sort of fairly dedicated for technologies which in one way or the other address the so-called tragedy of the commons, which has been coined in lots of neoliberal textbooks. So we're actually trying to address that with the Common Stack, and I'm also part of that. The Community Currency Alliance was a specific podcast. I can recommend it if you are interested in the field of community currencies, where we had a series of 10. We had guests in there. We had actually all the other participants in this call already, and 27 other participants was part of it. Some projects that I can briefly show that are part of the Community Currency Alliance, which are like always like flagship projects that are interesting to understand. One is the grassroots economics. It's really being debated among community currency, UBI, nerds, and when I say nerd, it's of course positive, whether this is UBI or not. This is started in Kenya as a cash-based transfer, in the sense that it was basically just local currencies being printed as like physical notes. They got into trouble for that. Will Rudik actually end up in jail by an sort of indictment from the Central Bank of Kenya. They got out as well. Today they are working very well with the Red Cross, and they have set up a local currency which is being used with these SMS phones, and in partnership with organizations, yeah, as I said, like Red Cross. Basically, how it works is that you have these saving circles. So a part of sort of the money that are coming as donations are then converted into this local currency. And the reason for that is, well, in some areas there's just no money at all. So that's where having specific liquidity is really a means of doing trade in the first place. And hence perhaps the debate also whether this is UBI or not, which is, there are all these different definitions. I mean, people are certainly living for it. So it's like really basic means that it is covering. On the other hand, there are these other arguments here that it has to be, on a certain size, or it cannot be dependent on NGOs like that. I think there are more clever people than me to address that. Yeah, and the status today of the Community Currency Alliance, about 1 year since this podcast / live stream went out. We have about, I guesstimate it's around 100 different projects from around the world. And when I say project again, it means everything. It means some projects that are still doing physical notes, or maybe 3D printing, some laser printed wood coins or something like that. Maybe it's sort of the next step, which is sort of IT specific projects, like maybe using Cyclos, which are these what one can be a bit provocative and call legacy technologies, using Cyclos, centralized databases. And then there's a whole nest of these blockchain-based or Web3-based community currencies. So when we say Web3, we mean sort of the paradigm which is not relying on a centralized database somewhere. This can be in the form of blockchain, such as what Trustlines is doing, for example, on the Trustlines blockchain. Circles, which is another project quite similar to Trustlines as well. They are on another blockchain as well. Another example of another technology which is also in the Web3 space, but which is not a blockchain, would be if you're building a mutual credit system on top of Holochain, for example, which doesn't have this global consensus block structure, which is why a blockchain is called a blockchain, but it's still distributed Web3 technology. I don't think I have to go too much into detail about how that works, or if I can even do it well enough. Here in the end, just some other interesting links you guys can look into if you want to follow more. Is another member of our Community Currency Alliance is the independent author Brett Scott, which have also written interesting books in this space. He has this newsletter that comes out on specific topics of money, discussing all these type of myth narratives and specific currency designs that exist. Because I mean, as you can imagine, even speaking of just like the cryptocurrency space, you can do all sorts of different designs. You can do some that are collateralized, under collateralized, over collateralized. Can be some that are total mutual credit based, just as what Trustlines is, where it's just mutual credit. There's no sort of other collateral on it. So we sort of have the whole design space of all the currencies that if you read David Graeber's book 5,000 Years of Debt, you're gonna stumble into lots of different kind of currencies that have existed throughout humanity, and that's sort of the design space we have on blockchain. It's just another technology. And now I said blockchain again, it can also be other Web3 technologies. Circles I mentioned before, which is this This project started by Julio, who could not join today. Also very interesting, a basic income on the blockchain, very interesting for this topic if you're not already familiar with it. What we see today is also gradually cooperative, like Circles is cooperative, moving into the blockchain space, and actually having also the organization of the cooperative moving to the blockchain. And this means, for example, that the members can now see what is in the treasury of the cooperative. You can vote on, maybe every member have a vote. You can say, should we pay out to this? So that's sort of a governance topic, which typically also comes up when a community currency project in the Web3 space gets a bit big. It's also the question of, where are money flowing? How should we make decisions? And that's a growing topic. Briefly, in the end, I can just show where I'm working myself right now full-time. So CCA is not a full-time thing for me. I'm working at NEAR, which is also a blockchain. It's sort of branded by being climate neutral and having a lot of transactions per second, being very cheap. We also support these sort of blockchain organizations and always looking to work with other interesting parties, specifically in the UBI and cooperative space as well. Lastly, if you want to set up your own community currency space, I would also recommend you to look into to this project called FRIBIS, which is they actually, Mark, the CEOs in the first episode here of the podcast, showing the app how it works. This enables you to set up your own application with your own currency network and have your own smartphone app with your own logo on. You do that all from this dashboard here. You don't need to code at all. So there are a lot of innovation happening. It's going very fast, and we are always looking for new supporters to join the community currency space and to make money accessible for all of us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for your last sentence, making money accessible for all of us. I think this is the main idea of Community Currency Alliance, and so or like community currency projects in general. And this is why we also have like the monetary issue topic of this conference, because in the end UBI and community currencies try to tackle similar social problems, and I think this is why the space is also emerging together. So thank you very much for giving this great overview into the community currency scene. Basically, globally, it's a small scene, but it's a very thankful and welcoming scene, very inclusive. So if one of you guys from the audience wants to join, yeah, just visit one of the websites, contact us, join the Telegram channel, and yeah, you will be welcomed very warmly. Maybe as some last words from all of us, I would actually like to ask this question, like that I already answered, but like, why are community currencies gaining traction in the UBI space? Why is UBI gaining traction in the community currency space? Or am I misled, or am I wrong? So yeah, maybe Aleeza is smiling. Maybe you want to start with the answer on, or maybe your last statement.
I think so. So the really great thing about community currencies is you don't have to ask permission. You don't have to wait months or years for legislation to go through. You just do it. You take action. And that, to me, that's always been the draw, is like, you want to start a basic income system, so go for it. And the devil is in the details, I suppose. But yeah, I think I had some more to say, but I lost my train of thought a little bit. But another interesting thing going the other direction of why community currencies are good testing grounds for basic income is that you can do stuff like what Teo's doing, right? You can very specifically look at the money movement and the effect, like the macroeconomic effect on a community. So all of those basic income studies that people talk about, in the media, they're always focused on the effect on the individual level. Looking at it as some sort of a charity program. That's like what the dialogue often ends up being. And it's like the way that, another way to look at basic income is a monetary tool. And this is like, most people don't even think of that. And that's like one of the clearest things that comes out of community currency, basic income studies. Is my 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks, Teodoro. And I also posted a question of Reinhard Huss in the chat, but Teodoro.
Okay. Yeah, my 2 points are macro stabilizing effect and the local multiplier effect. My macro stabilizing effect is something that was studied by Stoder in Switzerland about the VIR system. And the whole idea is that using a complementary currency system in an economic network allows you to macro stabilize the economy. It means that the adoption and the usage of complementary currency system is counter-cyclical. And so that when you have an economic crisis, financial crisis, people can still rely on a complementary currency system. And the second is the local multiplier effect, and it's a concept that was developed by the New Economics Foundation in UK, and where they did a lot of very interesting studies about local currencies and complementary currency systems. And the idea of local multiplier effect is that, of course, the more you can keep local your consumption, your production, the higher will be the GDP and the GDP and in general the well-being in your community. So we might prefer to use a local currency and local and complementary currency for any kind of for this kind of public investments. So yeah, these are my main 2 points about the advantages of using a local and complementary currency system for UBI. And another example is what is going on with the grassroots economics, and like Gustav was talking about grassroots economics, and indeed, like grassroots economics is trying to use a local currency in order to improve the usual cash transfer programs. So the cash transfer programs are those programs in which donors can send directly money to marginal communities and rural communities and poorer people in general. But the main critique about cash transfer program is that when people receive this money just will go out of the community. They will go buy, I don't know, Coca-Cola, for example, or Nike shoes. And anyway, like this kind of flow of currency that will just touch for a second the local community and then go away. And the improvement of using a local currency is that this cash, this is transferred, will keep staying in the local economy and keep flowing in the local economy. And that's why I'm interested in cyclic structures, because as long as we can observe this flow of currency and there are no people accumulating or just spending, we can observe local multipliers. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, especially for stressing the last point. I guess this is why experiments in Marika and Gyeonggi also use the local currency, and even in Gyeonggi, the people are only allowed to spend it in small vendors and small shops and not the big supermarkets. Gustav, do you want to say some last words? We are 5 minutes in the break and we have to quit, unfortunately.
Yeah, on a specific question, or
No, maybe just like a last statement.
I see we have this question around how much are these currency systems vulnerable to criminal and money laundering activities? In general, it's something regulators actually love these days. Maybe they don't talk about it, but you have a company, for example, like Chain Analysis, and they index all transactions that happens on the blockchain. And their biggest customers is CIA, FBI, Europol. So it's actually amazing for regulators to have systems like this where they can backtrack everything. So if you identify a criminal action, you have the full history of that, which is not something the normal banking system offers. So it's not something most people are aware of, but that's sort of a building block in this space. But yeah, on this note, yeah, just again want to say thanks a lot for organizing this live seminar here together, all of us. And I don't have any other inspiring words. Just want to say, keep the fight, all of you. And thanks a lot.
Yeah, it was good to see you all.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, there are other questions or we are closing?
I'm gonna quit the live stream now. I wish the audience of the FRIBIS annual conference, sorry, Gustav, a great conference. Enjoy the last two slots, the parallel sessions, and the last panel discussion where we discuss all findings of this conference. And I hope Venezuela makes it to the last conference because it has some very interesting aspects of the debt or not nature of money. Stay tuned.
Thank you.